Okay. So the first couple are just plugging into your calculator. So go ahead and plug them into your calculator and see what you get. We're rounding to the hundredth. It says to round everything to the hundredth. What decimal place is the hundredth? So 2.06 to the fourth. What are we getting? Anyone? Mm-hmm. E is in your calculator next to your natural log, so you have to hit second and the LN button, and then the E will come up, put in the number, and what do we get? Anyone? Mm-hmm. 54.60. Any questions on the first two? What do we get for the last one? Anyone? Really big number? One. Anything to the zero power is one. Since all of that is in the parentheses to the zero power, you didn't need to calculate it. It's just one. Any questions on calculators? Everyone found their E button? You really didn't have to plug it in, because anything to the zero power is. Any questions? You deposit $7,000 into an account and make $50 interest per year. Answer the questions that follow. Is this growth, because it's a growth since you're making $50 every year, is it linear or exponential? Linear. Why is it linear? It is showing growth. Increasing. By the same amount. So the reason it's linear is because it's growing by the same amount each time, $50 every single time. On a test, you would have to explain why. So since it's the same amount every year, it's linear. Linear equation, y equals mx plus b. So from the numbers you're given, you need to decide which of them is M and which of them is T. Now, if you weren't sure, we know X is time, and in this case, it was years. If we plug in 0, that would be your starting, because it's time 0. If you plug in 0, this drops out. That's your starting amount. So B, which is also a y-intercept, is the starting amount. The initial amount that's put into the account. Or if it were a credit card, the initial amount that's charged. Or if you're renting a snow blower, whatever the starting fee is, and then you pay for so many minutes, that's your B. So what is our starting amount for number 2? We're depositing 7,000 into an account at time 0. So this is 7,000. Slope is a rate. And our rate is $50 per year. So if we multiply by the number of years, it will give us the total number of times, or total amount. Any questions on that? Yes.
For Y, I put A, and then for X, I put T.
Yes, you can. And sometimes I tell you to use that. I did say T for years. Yes, you could use different variables like A for amount and T for time, or Y for years. I try not to use Y simply because I don't want you to get it confused with the Y variable. And I don't like to use M for months because you also have M for your slope. I usually use T for time. And we know it's in years. Either one of these is fine. Any questions on that? How much is in the account after 25 years? Well, what variable are we plugging it in for?
Yes.
In for the X, because we know X is years, or in for the T, because we know T is time. Now these just have blanks, so you do not have to write a sentence. Any questions? So how much is in the account? Anyone? Is that what everyone else got? Positive? So after 25 years, it'll be $8,250 in the account. Any questions on that? Well, we know if that one was linear, this one's probably exponential. Why is it exponential?
Can you show the growth?
Yeah, they both show growth though. It
That
shows,
is 12%.
right. by a percent. So what happens is, since it's going up by 12% each time, the first time, oh, I don't know, 7,000 times 0.12. The first time you're making $840 in interest. But the next time that 840 is in there with the 7,000, so you're making more than that the next time, because it's including the interest from the year before. And that's why it's not the same amount each time, it's growing by a percent. That would be exponential. It's growing by a percent, which means it's a different amount each year. Questions on that part? The formula? I can use an X or a T for time. It's a little easier to see. There's other formulas. They put in A here for amount or F for future value. No, it wouldn't be future, P for present value. But this is your starting amount. This is your 1 plus trick, just like we did before. So we have to make sure to write it as a decimal. This one was also starting with 7,000. Was increasing by 12% each year. Your exponent could have been a T for time, an X for time. It could have been either one. And our time is in years. Any questions on the equation? So if it's growing by a percent each time, it is exponential. If it's growing by the same amount each time or decreasing for both of them, it's linear.
So linear shows decrease.
No, they both show increasing or decreasing. Linear grows or decreases by the same amount each time. Exponential grows or decreases by a percent. In our example, both of these are growth. Any questions on that?
So
No, it's not. I could show you the graph.
would it be considered a compounding interest?
Yes. Because you're making interest off of the interest.
And two would be simple.
No, 2 is linear. Simple is, well, yeah, it is. Simple interest would be linear because you're making this, when you do a simple interest, they only give you the percent off of, like in this case, the 7,000. 7,000. So each year you only make 840. So yeah, that would be linear. Whereas compounded interest is what this would do because you're making interest off of the interest. Yep. I don't know if we get into this. I'm not sure if we do simple interest in this class. I can't
I was
remember.
just trying to think.
But yeah. So anytime you see simple interest, if you've done it in other classes, you're just making interest off of what you started with. So it's the same amount every time. Which makes it linear. Any questions on that? So on this one, the first year, you're making $840. The following year, you're making interest off of the interest that you made. And that's why this is compounding, and that's why it's exponential. Any questions on that? Where this one, you're making the same amount every time. 25 years. Oh, that's a nice amount. Does anyone want to say what they got? Quite a bit.
19,000, rounded 100, so 119,000.45.
Yep, 45 cents. It says to round everything 2 decimal places. Any questions? Is that what everyone's getting? Make sure you know how to plug everything in. Any questions? Now you can kind of look at this formula for the next part. This is your starting amount or initial amount. And then notice we added 1 to the rate. So to see what the rate is doing, the relative change, you subtract that 1 back out. So this one is just the initial amount. This one, we had added the 1 in, you subtract it back out. You also have to remember to put if it's increasing or decreasing. So go ahead and try well, at least do the first one, and then we'll go over it. What's the starting amount? Is the relative change an increase or a decrease? Because if we take 1.06 and subtract 1, we have 0.06. which tells us multiply it by 100 to make it a percent. There's a 6% increase. So we're taking this one back out, we're subtracting it out. Because it's positive, it's an increase, and then just make this a percent, you can multiply by 100. 6% increase. So you're just subtracting the one back out. Any questions so far? Okay, go ahead and do the other three and then we'll go over. So for the second one, what's the initial amount? 400 here. And then is it an increase or decrease?
Decrease.
By how much? So if we take the 0.80 minus 1, we get a negative, oops, no, I missed the equal sign. Because it's negative, it's a decrease. To get the percent, you just multiply by 100. So 12% decrease. The negative doesn't come with it. The negative is the word decrease. Any questions on that one? What's the initial amount for the next one?
550.
And is it an increase or a decrease?
Increase,
By how much?
22%.
Mm-hmm. Positive, so there's an increase, multiplying that by 100, there's a 22% increase. Any questions? What's the initial amount for the last one? Increase or decrease?
Decrease,
By how much?
45%.
Any questions? It's definitely on the exam, on the in-person, and this is one, at least one, if not both of these, probably one. On April 9th, 2011, the New York Times reported that a pawn shop opened in a Blockbuster store. The borrowers are given 60 days to pay back the loan. And La Familia charges 20% interest per month. So a $100 loan the borrower would need to pay back $140 in 60 days. Explain why 20% interest per month on a $100 loan for 2 months would actually require a little more than $140. And what is the annual interest rate when this best business lends money? Well, first thing we need to find out is how much you would actually pay at 20% per month for 2 months. Is that linear or exponential? Exponential, it's growing by 1%. You're paying interest on the interest. This was monthly, so our time would be months. So exponential, this is our formula. Go ahead and write your equation. See how much you would pay each month. Now, it's giving us stuff in days, but the interest is per month, not per day. So we would have to convert days to months and not just months to days. This is interest per month. Everything needs to be in months. the initial amount? It's an increase of 20%, so 1 plus. What's 20% as a decimal?
420.
Well, that would be our equations. Now, the New York Times, I think it was, yeah, said it would be $140 for 60 days. Well, if we want to check that, first of all, what value for 60 days, what would that be in months? $30 a month, 31 is not a big deal, so we would use 2 months. So instead of $140, what do you have to pay back? Not too big of a deal, but after more months go by, it is, because you're paying interest on that interest, and it makes a difference. So it's not $140, it's $144. On your credit card, if you figure out the amount and send it in, and you did 140, that $4 that you didn't put could triple your interest rate because it ends up being late. If you had to pay the whole thing. Credit card, you don't always have to pay the whole thing. But a car payment, you do. Any questions on that?
The interest rate is 144.
The amount they would owe is 144, not the interest. The interest was $44 instead of 40. So in 60 days, they would owe $144, not 140. And you do need to put sentences on this one. Yes.
I was trying to explain something like that, and I just really don't, like, I know it's like based on the amount of time passed plus the initial amount being times by itself again. But like, how would you put that in terms of like words? Because I don't break it.
Because in the second month, not make you owe. It would be 144, not 140, because in the second month, you owe interest on the amount of interest from the month before.
Okay, so you.
Yeah, so something like that.
So you owe a compounded, the interest is compounded.
Yep. So if we took the 100, in the first month, we owe $20 interest. If we find $20 of 100, you're paying $20 interest. The next month, they're not taking 20% of the 100, you haven't paid anything. So it's 20% of what was in there and the, amount that it increased by. So you're paying interest off of interest. This would be 44 instead of 40. Or wait, no, 20%. So the first month you owe $20 interest. Since it stayed in there, the next one you owe 24. Any questions? To find the annual rate, that's relative percent change. But in order to use relative percent change, because we said a year, right? What is the annual interest rate when they lend money? Relative percent change, but we need to know how much you owe in a year. We know what we started with, $100. But you need to find out how much you owe in a year. Then use that value in the original to find the relative change. How would we find out how much we owe in a year?
So you take the 2 and instead get 12, right?
So plugging into your equation, for t, instead of 2, use a 12. This would tell us if we plug a 12 in here, 12 months. 12 months is 1 year. We need to use 12 because time was in months.
Then we again round up to the hundreds.
Yes. What are we getting when we round? Anyone?
891.61.
So in 1 year, your $100 that you borrowed, you now owe $891. And 20%, there are interest rates that are 20%. You miss one payment, it goes up to 25% on a lot of them.
Then why would you ever?
If you can't get it from anybody else and you have the money to pay your child's doctor bill who's in the hospital. I mean, there's certain cases, yeah, I don't need the more expensive car, I could live with a smaller car. But there are other cases when money is short that, but no, I completely understand. So when you're getting your credit cards, check what their interest rates are.
We have to put this part in sentence 2.
Yes, but we didn't finish it. So this is the amount of money you would owe, and this is assuming you paid nothing. To find the percent, then you need relative percent change. New minus old or original divided by the original. And I think it said percent. Oh, it just said rate, so it's up to you. I like percent. So the new value minus the original divided by the original times 100 to make it a percent. What is the annual rate? One. So your annual rate is $791.61. I don't know why I said dollars. 61%. So this is one I wouldn't want the decimal, but the decimal is fine because that's what I said. But 792%.
So that's what, how much the annual rate will be?
Yep. But either one of these. But make sure you show your work. One, you'll want it to study with, and two, I need to see it for your grade. Any questions? Any questions? So this one says to open an Excel file. So you want to open an Excel file. Under A, you put month, B is Antonio, and C is Marcello. For these fill in the blank ones, if you want to just on your paper put A30 and then write the formula next to it, B30 and the formula next to it, that's fine. In column A, use a formula in row 3. So I want to write a formula that will continue adding 1 and drag it down for 48 so that we're doing 48 months. So you actually have to go down to the 49 because of the month. But we need an equation. Remember, equations start with an equal sign that will keep adding 1 so that it's just showing you each month, the first, the second, the third. Equals. Now, what could we do this number 1 to make this one a number 2? Add 1. You want to take the 1 above and add 1, which would make this a 2. And then if I take this 2 and add 1, I get the 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. If you use the equal sign and then click the 1 above it, which should be A3, and then add 1, that should put a 2 in the column. So we click here, equals, and then when you click the box above, it puts it there. Oops, I put 3. We were in. But when you click on the 1 above, it automatically puts that, and then you just type +1. Any questions on typing in the formula? So in A3, you would type this. Now there's a little plus sign that you can put here. And then you click it and drag it all the way down so that you have 48. Now you have to be careful. Right now, it's like the red cross symbol. You don't want that. You want a thin black line. There's also one, like this one has arrows. We don't want that. We want that one. Right in that corner. Now, depending on how fast your mouse is, it's not that easy to get to. Want to go in that very corner. Left click. We're going to drag it all the way down to the 49 because that should get us 48. Yep, 48.
Take the highlight the two.
It's not a highlight though. You have to be in the. You have to be in the. Well, first you click on the two. Then you go into the corner like this. You left click and drag it all the way down to the 49. Did it work out? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now it says click on A30. What formula is there?
So
A30. Now you don't want 29, you want the formula. So if you click on the 29, the formula's up here.
what's the one?
Yep, so we want equals A29 plus. That way I know you used the formulas and didn't just go 1, enter 2, enter 3, enter 4, enter. Because if you're gonna do that, then I'll make it go to 60 or something. So that's the first column. Is everyone getting this in that space when you click on it? This would be a problem that would be in the take-home portion because of electronics. Any questions? All right, the next one, it says, Antonio decides he does not want his money in the bank and puts $100 under his bed every month. Under his name in the third row, type a formula that will calculate each month and show the total in the account. So each time he's putting $100 in. Well, we just put 1 in each time. How would we have to change it? Add. What? He has his account and each time he's adding how much money? Remember to put the equal sign. The 1 before plus 100. So is this linear or exponential? Linear. The linear one, then you can keep adding or subtracting depending on which it is. If it's the same amount, you just need to put in addition, or if it's decreasing, a subtraction. Linear is pretty easy on Excel. Once you have it, hit enter, click on it again, and drag it all the way down. Your last one should be 4,800. And then it says to click on B30. And type the equation that's there. So you're getting 4,800 for the last one? When you click B30, what are you getting? Nice. Any questions so far? The biggest thing that happens when you go to do it on your own, you forget the equal sign. Just text me and I'll remind you. Okay. That's fine. Want to hold the button. What else? All right, let me see your formula. On one. Formula. Hit enter. The formula goes with it. And number two, you want to type what I have at the very top. Holes. And then click on the one above. And then plus one. Then hit enter. Now click back on that top two again. And now drag it down and it will change them all. And then for the next one, you'll do the same thing, except you'll add 100. Any other questions on the first two? The third one, you put 500 in, which is up there, and then 5%. So you want a 5% increase, which is exponential. Right, you want to go on the formula. Right. Now go back to the Any other questions on the first? Don't go home and be lost. We do the homework so that I can help you. So for Marcello's, 5%. What's 5% as a decimal? Just checking. What could we use? We know we need an equal sign. We need the starting amount. Or the next amount, depending on how you're doing it. There's like at least 3 different ways I showed you last class. So you can put it in. I like to take the one before and then just use the 1 plus trick and it puts the 5% into it. Now, multiplication. So if we're doing the 1 plus trick, it would be the one above. E2. Multiplication is an asterisk, and then 1 plus 5%, 0.05. So we could take 5%, use the 1 plus trick, and that would keep increasing whatever's in there by 5%. One way of doing it. Did I do my talk down there? So you should be getting 525 for that second month. And then just drag it in. Any questions? Now, of course, this is money and we have a lot of decimals. So we can get rid of that. Oh, it's 0.5 instead of 0.05. Did I write it wrong there? 0.05.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a little more. Is everyone getting those values? Now remember, because of all those decimal places, you have it highlighted. You can right click, go down to format. I would use number, not currency, and 2 decimal places. Highlight the whole column, right click, go down to format cells, and then number, 2 decimal places. Or if you want whole dollars, because the other 2 are in dollars, you could do that. You highlight it first, then you right click, go down to format cells, and then number and 2 decimal places. Wait, this part? You want me to move it up? Is that what you mean?
Oh, no, I just.
Oh, I see. You mean move this over?
Yeah, like if you go on the top, at the top. That row.
I'll move it over. I had made it wider so you'd see all the decimal places, but yes, that's true. You could just move this and it will get rid of decimal places. I see what you mean now. Like if this had, well, it also depends on what they are. I have 8 decimal places right now. If I only want 2, sometimes you can go over and just have the 2, but because I have it set on 8, it won't do that. But when you first do it, if it's not initialized, you could do that. Any questions on that? So then you want to click on C30 and write the formula. Now C29 and an asterisk 1 plus 0.05. Or 1.05, depending on how you wrote it. Any questions on that? Is that what you're getting here? Well, depending on how you started. Did you have a question? Oh,
Something like that.
but everything else. Yeah, I'm not worried if it shows more decimals. Any questions on that part? Part C. In what month did Marcello's savings pass Antonio's back up? Because at first Marcello put more money in. When did Marcello pass him back up again? So Marcello put in 500, but then right here, 700. If we look at this column, Antonio, who put 100 every month, and right here he passed up Marcello. Nope, one more, sorry. 700. But eventually the interest starts building so much that
Should be 148.
yeah. Notice this last month, Marcello passed him back up. So eventually it will pass back up, and well, I don't want to think it might be. So part C would be 48 months. Yeah. I was right. I had it on 45, 46. It would be 47. At the end of 47 months. No, this one's higher too. It's before. Oh, wait. We wanted Marcello higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 48 is right. It would have to be the end of the 48th month.
Yeah, we want right column higher, right?
Yeah.
So that means I would start back at 48. Sorry, it's 47th month though, right? Yeah, it's 48 column.
Oh, I'm looking at the column.
Yeah, I was too, sorry.
Sorry. Be careful because you want to look at the months, which is column A, not the
Yeah, it's because
column
the
number, which is this, and this was highlighted, so I was looking here. But it's actually 46.
That'd be the end of 47 months?
Yeah.
So for these
Somewhere
two-
in the 47th month.
For these two, are you looking for a relative change, relative?
How much of the money, you mean for part D?
Yeah.
How much of the money in Antonio's account is money that he put there? He took $100 and put it under his bed every month. How much of it was his money? How much was the bank? It's all his. So he may have more money than Marcella did. Well, almost as much because Marcella did pass it. But all of this money Antonio put in. No, I have lines, so you can put all of it for 4,800. So Antonio put all $4,800 in. You don't have to use a sentence, you can just put 4,800. Because there's a blank. How much of the money in Marcello's account is money he put there? 500, yep. He put $500 from his graduation party in, and then just let the interest take its course. He never put anything out. So even though he had $4,952.99 at the end of the 4 years, he only put $500. Can't find an interest of 5% right now. Good. And you put that money when you first start college, then $500 at the end of your 4 years will give you 4,000, almost $5,000. Yep. Be sure to upload a picture with it.
What the file or?
Yeah, I would prefer the file, just save it and then attach the file. If you, I haven't tried it on Desmos. I don't know that it would be easier. I think it'd be harder. But if you use Desmos, then you could, take a picture of it. And they should shrink. Or you'd need 2 pictures. If you want to do a picture instead of saving it. Yeah, that's a little too small. But you could make it small, but I would just save the file and attach the file. Any questions? Any questions? $1,000. So they keep doing, everything was increasing. I want you to see it. Look at decrease. Buy a car for $20,000 and its value decreases per year. The one value by 1,800. Linear or exponential? Because it's decreasing by the same amount every year. If you turn this problem in with your homework, I'll give you 5 extra credits. What would M be in this value one?
20,000.
Remember, B is your starting amount. And this is the rate. It's decreasing by 1,800 per month, per year. So it would be a decrease 1,800 and tax would be year.
These are the XB years.
Tax would be your years. And this would be your starting value. Since it's a decrease, it's a negative. So don't think of increasing and decreasing as exponential and linear. Exponential and linear is, this is the same amount every time. It decreases by 1,800 per year. It's linear. Questions on the equation?
Wait, could you call that the rate then?
The 1,800, yes, it is a rate because you lose 1,800 per year. This one's a percent, which means it's exponential. It's our starting amount. And one plus trick, but since it's a decrease, it's a negative 13%. Any questions on the difference between them? So decreasing can be exponential and it can be linear. So she put the negative with it. Any questions?
Oh, it's just the negative.
Mm-hmm. Now, for the extra points, you only have to have these two parts. You do not have to have the Excel. I just want to show you how it works. And the one on the left will go to zero eventually. This one, except for rounding in a calculator, will not reach zero. So the first one, it's decreasing by 1,800. So if we went equals the one before and subtracted 1,800. And then we go to our formula. Maybe.
So we don't have to do the Excel thing?
No. Let's see. Whoops. Oh, it already hit zero somewhere. So here, it's already reached zero. But when you're using the percent equals the one before times 1 minus 0.13. Keeps getting smaller and smaller. And it's getting closer and closer to 0, but it will never reach it, except calculators will eventually round to 0. So the exponential, because it's a percent of it, even though it's just getting to be smaller percents of it, it's still a percent. And if there's $1, you're still only 13% of it. So it should never reach 0. But a calculator eventually will round. Any questions on that? So decreasing doesn't mean linear or exponential. It only means it's a negative. So subtract. Any questions? And it doesn't mean that it's linear or exponential. It only means that you're going to use a negative sign with it. Any questions on that? Picture, so.
Board.
Yeah, just email me it. Sorry. If you do not have any questions, I will see you on Friday. But if you do have questions, stay and I'll help you. So. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. This part, like, find my neighbors and like this.
Well, you found your data by the survey. And you have to type all of it in, either in Excel or Desmos.
Okay.
And then, like we did for homework, the bar graph and the pie chart, and then write a paragraph back.
Oh. So. Oh,
Yeah, that would be the reason. Maybe. So it's giving you how many? 6 people? I think that's 6 people. Well, this is how many times they go. About 2 times, 3 times. So that's your numerical graph.
just go in here.
No, those are the number responses. Somewhere you had like chocolate, vanilla. That's the one that would,
Go up here.
the first one, yeah.
And this is
Flavor. And then that one's the number of times. Was it a week or? Yeah.
in the month.
Okay. And then I think it was, the last one was the number of times they went in a month and how much they spent. That would be this one. This one is just how many times they went in a week. This one you're using both times.
So this one is like how much they spent.
And how many times they go. And how you want them paired together from the same person.
So how do I find like the result from the flavor part?
Was it a different survey?
It was all on the same survey, same. Like what, next?
Maybe. Question one, how many times do you go? Okay, so then question two. How much do you spend? I'm not seeing questions, you only have two questions. I think the other one you did in a different one.
Who's the good question on it? Or do I have to put another question on there?
You could start another one. Maybe what happened was you only attached the one to your whatever account, your social media, and didn't attach both of them.
So click new question, re-add it again?
Yeah, but I would only put the one unless you need more people to answer the other questions. Yeah, so then I would just start a new question. Just ask, what's your favorite ice cream?
Wait,
What's your, yeah. I would make that one multiple choice so you don't get too many answers.
oh, for the flavor part?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah, when you click on this, it gives you like each part. Mhm. Well, you let them put, and you already put in number one. So, yeah, 5 to 7. Yeah, just think about your bar, how many bars you want, 5 to 7.
Thought. So click start from scratch. What do I put here, like?
I think we did other.
One question at a time, or?
Well, you only need one question. I guess you could leave it on that one, it doesn't matter, because you're only putting one.
Look what I got done so far. With this part. That's the one.
I like that. That goes good with it.
Through the cone and the ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay. Multiple choice, I think one.
And then enter your answer, so whatever one you want to put, vanilla, chocolate. Oh, I think you might have to take your question, it might use that as your title, which is fine. But different question, well, you could put the exact same thing. You have any questions, or?
We do the 1 point. How do you put the one question into the cell? Means the one question is 1 minus 1.3. That's what I typed in. So everything just like that, no parentheses.
You would, if you're putting them both, like one minus, you'd have to put that in parentheses.
Parentheses. So the first one we did is, I'll put some numbers. Okay.
You might have not put the last parentheses. Sometimes what it'll do is ask you if you want to put it there, and it'll pop up a little screen.
So how many choices I can have?
5 to 7.
1, 2, 5, that'd be all right. Then it says select type. Three or not? Or yes and no.
I don't think you need type, because you put them here, they just mark which one.
So take this out.
Yeah, you don't.
Include, say,
And then I think there was a done down below.
where do I find a link at?
Did they email it to you? I forget.
Copy the server?
There it is, yep. And then you put that on your social media.
I put it on my Mind app, and that's why I don't get a lot of results back.
Oh, good. Yeah, because a lot of students are on their Facebook, depends on how many friends you have. But the other one is all YSU, which is nice too, because then it's all the same age.
Yep,
I mean, mostly.
thank you. Looking done, since
Did you have any questions, Samuel?